The all heard that. Okay. All right. So hi everyone, and welcome to this year's final poetry event, the final Indelible Evening. I'm really happy to have us all here again, and really happy to be meeting some new faces as well. It has been an unusual year, just like the one before it, albeit a little bit better. And again, we were always meeting through poetry and through fiction and nonfiction and creativity. So thank you all for making this year bearable, for making it pleasant, for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. We've had 28 Indelible Evenings during this year, during 2021, and we've had 10 site creative sessions. And it was a great, great honor to feature so many wonderful, wonderful people. Ruth, Gottfried, Claude, Hedy, Carly, Dr. Hannah, Leah. Thank you all. Sarah, thank you for being such a wonderful, always being there for us, especially during Site Creative. So it's been really wonderful hearing everybody's ideas, hearing everybody's articulations of the world inside and outside. So thank you all again. And we look forward to having more of this during 2022. And, we're also hoping for it to be a better year. So we're in it for a long time, as Dr. Hannah was just explaining to us now from a doctor's perspective. This might be a long stretch. It's going to be a few more years like that. But, optimism is always great. Looking at things through our poetic lens, through our artistic, creative lens, also always helps us as well. So we will start with Professor Ruth Padel. Ruth, let me pin your screen over here. So we are very happy and greatly, greatly honored to have you with us again. As many of you know, Ruth was our featured poet for the previous issue, for issue number 5. Ruth read with us during the Festival of Literature out of her brilliant new book on Beethoven Variations. So that was really amazing. Thank you so much for constantly sharing your wonderful verse with us. We really look forward to hearing your poem, excerpts from Tidings, actually. So has anyone read Tidings here?
Not yet.
Sure, many of you are familiar with Tidings, and we're very excited to hear Ruth read about it. Ruth, I just want to read your bio. Okay, so Ruth Padal is an award-winning British author, a poet. She began life as a classicist studying ancient Greek and has spent much of her life in Greece, especially Crete. She is a passionate wildlife conservationist and also a musician. She now lives in London and has published 12 poetry collections, 7 nonfiction works, and a novel. 2 novels. Ruth is a fellow of both the Royal Society of Literature and Zoological Society of London and professor of poetry at King's College London, where she hosts a popular series of poetry and events, combining poetry with other areas of learning. Ruth's new book, Daughters of the Labyrinth, came out recently this June. So we also had the honor of hearing Ruth reading some excerpts from it during our launch event this June. So Ruth, without further ado, we would love to hear everything you have to say.
Thank you, and happy and healthy Christmas to everybody. I'm going to read just excerpts from this book, which was a Christmas book, which I was invited to write, told to write, really, by my publishers. And I dedicated it to the focus outreach team for the homeless in my local borough of Camden, because at Christmas, especially here in the northern climate when everything is so cold, I think that the homeless are the most important people to think about. So I'll just read some excerpts from it, starting at the beginning. I am the oldest angel, the dark side of the brain. Everything untold, suppressed, unseemly, or wild is under my protection. I am Karum, angel of silence. I am the seed of fire in a hearth you thought was cold. The stillness when you step into moonlit snow, and who you are in private. I appear whenever you drop into quiet. Silence, you say, when you make room for wonder. I am less and less here. But tonight, for 24 strange hours in the darkness of the year, I have a voice. For this is Christmas Eve, when everything hidden comes alive. Children's toys that have rolled under a sofa or stayed in the cupboard unplayed with for years, and your own unspoken longing to be given something more by life. Suddenly, if you listen, all unnoticed things can talk, and so can I. Tonight, I play a part in everyone's secret search for something better. Come with me to St. Pancras Old Church, on a little London hill ruined with 20 centuries of human stories. People are trickling through the gates, up the path around the monuments, the children's service. Those two figures hurrying because they're late are Sue and her daughter, Holly. Holly is 7. She's a pony prancing on the firefly shimmer of LED light-bringer trainers. Through a 1,000-year-old arch into an ancient shrine built over a Roman water on the bank of the River Fleet, long covered over, like the secret hopes hidden in every soul, which might flare out tonight in joy or disappointment, in a loneliness hardest to accept this time of year, or might bear new fruit. That's why I'm here. I belong with secrets kindly kept, with possibilities, with what might a mysterious birth witnessed by distant shepherds and foreign kings, the longings conjured up by giving, gift, and given, and this time-stopping rift in every schedule. Yes, what can Christmas do to all of us? So the children go into the church, but around the church, it's a real church just above King's Cross, a very old one of the oldest places for Christian worship originally in Britain. In the garden is hiding a homeless man called Robin. And he hasn't spoken for years, and he's disaffected with the world. I met someone like him when I worked with a friend of mine who works with Focus charity. He's quarreled with the world. I saw him gaze at children going into church as if they were shadow puppets, nothing to do with him. His hair is floating grease locks, black and grey. His face is beaten copper, smocked with red. Wonder startled, as if he had a bounty on his head. His stare reminds me of a loose wind vane flapping on a yacht in open sea. He spends his days round here or down in town, but he goes to ground in the muddled night of Sue and Bill's front garden. They don't know he stashes a sleeping bag and rucksack, everything he owns, under their shed, behind a tangle of weed cutting and bramble, and like Saint Jerome beds down there with an animal, a young vixen he's tamed, or maybe she tamed him. She's company. She keeps him safe. She's here too. See her by that grave, hoping for food. But Robin is catching echoes of his childhood. Poor shepherds in fields they lay. Robin has slept in those cold fields. He knows the tunes. But remembering is danger. Any way back in or whiff of home is lost in muddy veils of wandering. Can't we reach out and touch him? May this church on spark strung with golden windows, humming with Europe's sweetest, oldest songs, pass through his lonely fears to buried dreams, and kindle some unburned thing in him that longs change. Behind this freezing layer of cloud, a billion stars spin over all our heads, unseen. So Holly is sitting in the service, and what she's longing for, what she asks for is a puppy. She wants a puppy for Christmas. And meanwhile, at the end of the service, Robin goes down to the Thames and thinks and looks at it. And the fox is with him. And the angel wants to do something to help him move into safety, to begin a pathway. And when I went with my friend, who's a psychiatrist, through all the homeless hospitals, in that sort of strange time of year between Christmas and New Year, when all the Christmas trees were up in the homeless hospitals. And I saw so many sort of leaflets, the people gave me so many leaflets about pathways to help people, to help the homeless come in from the cold, literally, and find a pathway to a safer, happier life. And this is what I was thinking of. So Haroun, the angel, is thinking about how he can help Robin. Can I get Robin to give up a life apart? Christmas is a tightrope. Rejected is its heart. But so is life in the dark. He's not alone. Let him see light arrive across the globe, a world more possible and brighter than he knows. The night ahead will ebb and flow, a night of vigil, stations of the soul, an old truth dawning, a lightening of time, until before the morning, we might gaze at this bent world with a blaze of hope from absolutely nowhere. Come with me into longed for, into all we can imagine of mystery, wonder, hope, despair, and a world, many worlds, elsewhere. So I'm very conscious of all the wonderful poets that are going to come. So he gradually shows Robin in his visions through the snowy London as he gradually walks him back, led by Fox, up from the Thames, up the river, old buried River Fleet, to a hospital in Holborn. He gradually shows him the Christmas dawn coming across the world from East Australia, across the world, across the Middle East. And I just want to read finally the passage about when the dawn comes over Bethlehem. Robin wakes, the snow is drifting now, he's frozen, and limps after the fox like a weary king chasing a distant star, falls through a doorway, stares through whirling flakes at the central criminal court, Old Bailey, and shuts his eyes as the sun is coming up in the Judean mountains, 2,000 feet above the sea on Bethlehem. Let Robin dream of the small white plateau town where Christmas, whatever it means, began. The place of birth, worshipping parents and sweet smell of hay, a stable door ajar, unexpected gifts, a sudden standing star, the budding out of love, the promise of everything perfect on this earth. Here's the actual place, under a winter sky of broken lace, with a cloud like a giant bird dancing on a skyline of silhouettes, the residence, the Omar Mosque and church, its gilt cross hidden by touched by the hidden sun spilling through cumulus. But this is my night to speak. I have to show the truth, nothing glossed over. Who is the separation barrier? Robin knows about kept out and boxed in. The rising sun is sparkling on a settlement, an 8-meter high wall of concrete watchtowers, razor wire, glinting metal, searchlights, and a shoot-at-sight militia above and all around this little town. That's Bethlehem today. Spin the glass of what was then. I could say, the night that babe was born, it was raining, cats and dogs. We alarmed the shepherds, tossing our shafts of light through olive trees and pelting rain. They turned up drenched, the barn roof leaked, and the place stank of saddle dung, wet wool and rotting straw. Or say, no, the sky was cloudless, the air was soft and sweet, a moon like a milk-white bitten apple on the wane. Tell it how you like, it comes to the same thing, a baby, displaced parents, and their midnight visitors from opposite walks of life. Shepherds, but also kings, the not so wise men who bought rich gifts and triggered a massacre, all the children of Bethlehem and the coasts thereof. The family became refugees seeking asylum. Robin, listen in your sleep. This touches you, doesn't it? Christmas is children, gift giving, persecution, and lost sheep. The Christmas sun is rising like rubbed gold on hemmed-in Bethlehem, but Robin is free to move. The snow has stopped. He has the freedom of the night to choose, to follow his star, his fox, into the light. So, of course, in the end, the fox does lead him to a hostel. And Holly, I had fun at the end. Of course, I called the protagonists Holly and Robin because that's what you see in a Christmas card. But Holly is this upset little girl who doesn't get a puppy, comes out into the garden and sees who she thinks is a magician. He looks just like Merlin and the once and future king. And he's feeding the fox. And tonight the fox can talk. And he's saying goodbye to the fox. And so she sees a magician. And he sees a little figure with gold curls and lit up feet on her sparkly trainers and thinks he's seen an angel. So she gets a talking fox as a companion, and he gets the gift of a hopefully free life. So that's it. I'm sorry to take up so much time, and a happy Christmas to everybody.
Not at all. I mean, wasn't that gorgeous or what? Thank you so much, Ruth. This is one of the most beautiful books, one of my seasonal favorites. And thank you so much for sharing some parts of it with us tonight. This is just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next we have Dr. Hanna Saade. Dr. Hanna is both a creative writer and an infectious disease specialist. He is currently the clinical professor emeritus and geriatric medicine selective program director at the University of Oklahoma's Health Sciences Center. And he has authored 5 poetry books, 4 novels, and 2 collections of short stories. He has been voted among the top 5% of the doctors in America and is the recipient of several medical awards such as the Don F. Reinhardt MD Medical Service Award and the Medical Humanities Award for prolific, compassionate, and insightful literary work in the field of medical humanities. He traveled to the US in 1971 for completing his postgraduate medical training. The 20-year Lebanese Civil War prevented him from returning to his fatherland, thus making Oklahoma his second home, where he has been productive as both physician and writer. Dr. Hanna, it is a great honor to have you with us again this evening, and we look forward to hearing your poem, Jogging.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen because it's so much easier to follow.
Okay.
See if I can find it.
Yeah. We can see your screen.
Now, where do I get my? It should say, here we go. I can see it, but you can't see it, right?
We can.
You can? Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Rula asked me to share a festive poem, and I found it difficult to find festive poetry. I realized most of my poetry is longing and yearning and sad and explorative, but this one is festive. I wrote it when I was an avid jogger, and I read it to a group of geriatric patients, and they loved it because it brought back their youthful vigor. And I always introduce my poems because I believe that my poems cannot stand alone. Others can, but mine need some help with an introduction. And this is a very simple introduction. Among the sports, jogging provides the most convenient escape from reality. It not only appeases our yearnings for youth, health, power, energy, and beauty, it also is a mind-cleansing, heart-purifying, daydreaming, meditating activity which elevates our spirits, diffuses our tensions, and brings us peace and fulfillment. The feelings and thoughts that consume us while jogging are explored in this poem, which echoes the jogger's hopping beat as it scrolls stanza after stanza before our eyes. Jogging. It is autumn, and the shading of the mist upon the sun held the day in tranquil trance, as though the morn and eve were one enchanting painting of a sweet romance. And the ground was perfect, like the face of God, warm and ready with its coat of leaves for winter. How could I but mingle with this overbearing nature, skip and dance in the dimples of the yawning autumn fog as I jog? I am flying in the bosom of the lusty autumn mist as I pass on the many roads that wander on the grass. And I ponder with my easy hopping beat on the many scenes enacted on the street. Little boys with little toys making quite a bit of noise. What a noisy little world to meet. Just around the corner is a friendly neighbor mowing, stops to cast a gentle gesture as I'm going down the road, where, as always, there's a curious little dog barking as I pass him hopping in the fog, thinking, sweating, how he makes the misty morning silence crack. Panting, both of us are panting, and the sweating makes a wet dividing furrow on my back. Will I have a heart attack? I am told that many joggers lose their life upon the track. Even so, I must go. Do I dare venture in a dream adventure as I cross the shopping square? Do I dare sing an aria to the air as I trot, as I wonder if I am Don Quixote or Lancelot on a proud Arabian mare? Do I dare be an author or an actor or a symphony conductor or an agent undercover or a dashing secret lover? What a curious little world to share. It would probably be better if I abdicate the matter, leave the seeming and the dreaming of this delicate affair, and go on. I have miles and miles to run. There's a mystical fulfillment in the torture I endure, some satisfying achievement, if you will, as I am gliding down a valley or am subduing a hill. What a thrill to be free as I am trotting, to be pure. Such a natural aloneness has a sensual allure, hopping on this Mother Earth, watching birth. I feel trim, and as long as I am running, I'll be slim, I'll be strong. And it seems that running longer makes me feel so much younger. I feel young, yet at times I pause and ponder, am I truly getting younger as I jog, as I practice my obsession with an overpowering passion in the dimples of the fog? Should I ask if I harbor a depression that I mask? Should I ask, why do I insist to finish such a solitary task? Does it matter? I'm a jogger, proudly jogging. All my life I have been jogging, and I do not wish to stop till I drop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
That's-
constantly sharing the offspring of both science and poetry, and for always coming up with some wonderful, wonderful verse. Thank you, Dr. Hanna, for this. We're very happy to have you with us again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank
I
you.
have
Thank
I have a
you.
medical obligation, which makes me leave the meeting. I'm sorry to leave, but it'll be recorded and I can hear the rest of it
Yes,
later.
of course. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
definitely, definitely.
Thank you
So
for,
good luck with the rest of the day.
thank you, and take care.
Okay, you
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye. Bye. So next up, Leah Larwood. Leah, who was with us a couple of weeks ago with Site Creative. And Leah was speaking to us about the relationship between dreams and poetry. For those of you who do not know Leah, Leah has an MA in creative writing from Birkbeck University, London, and is a freelance writer for various UK well-being and health magazines. She is studying to be a certified poetry therapist, CPT, with the International Federation of Bibliopoetry Therapy, and a Gestalt psychotherapist. She has been shortlisted for the National Poetry Competition, and her work has been published in various literary publications. She was placed in the Poetry Book Society Dyslexia Competition 2019 and the Poetry Society Stanza Competition 2018. She lives in Norfolk, UK. So, Leah, we are very happy to have you with us again. It doesn't happen every day that we come across a poet who is also a hypnotherapist and who knows a lot about connecting dreams with poetry and just wonderful, marvelous poetry we would love to hear more of right now. So go ahead, the floor is yours. All right, done.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, and to both of the readers so far. So lovely to hear all your poems. And Camden Borough used to be my home for around 10 years. So Ruth, I will be certainly checking out Tidings. I so enjoyed your readings. And when I was searching for festive or seasonal poems, I couldn't find very many, but I did find two that I felt had a place this evening. So I'm going to read you two poems that are kind of linked to this time of year. And the first one is inspired by the quote by Rumi, which goes, "Don't think the garden loses its ecstasy in winter. It's quiet, but the roots are down there riotous." It's called First Wakening. One luminous dusk before the winter solstice, when morning couldn't shake off bedtime, and the afternoon mantled a shadowy cloak. That's when the winter trees first spoke to her. She'd long forgotten the fullness of July maples, with their glib sway and vacant, plump swag. Yet as her exhales travelled to the ceiling of night, there was movement in the depths of her woods. She rose into the upright sunlight of her dream, with the moon peeking over its thorny shoulder, skeleton branches clawing at her bedroom window. The sound rooted her between awake and asleep. There she held space between the borders of sleep. Upon waking, she could walk through walls, though had forgotten how to hide or to bury or to look away. And seeing as we are fast approaching the shortest and darkest day of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere, I thought I'd read a poem about our inner light. It's called Golden Shadow, after Hafiz. When you are lonely in the darkness of night, diving into rain clouds with chalk in your eyes, if only you knew your astonishing light. While the wind seems to know when all is not right, in your head there's the jackdaw telling you lies. When you are lonely in the darkness of night, like the acorn in awe of oak's noble height, you can't weather hope, only yearn to be wise. If only you knew your astonishing light. You even burn silk, talk the sun into fight. Shadow, why are you too brilliant a prize? When you are lonely in the darkness of night, you cling to an envy of lotus in white. Step out of the magic you try to disguise. If only you knew your astonishing light. When you feel happy, spinning fast in flight, I wish I could show you the dazzling skies. When you are lonely in the darkness of night, if only you knew your astonishing light. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Light is something, you know, wonderful to write about now, especially that, as you say, we're approaching the shortest day of the year very soon. Tomorrow, is it after tomorrow? Yes.
Tuesday,
Beautiful
I think.
verse. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here with us again. And next up is Helen. Helen, is it Helen or Helen? What would you like to be addressed as?
Cute. It's Helen, Ruler.
Helen,
Thank you.
okay. Right, so Helen Demetriades, her debut collection, The Plum Line, will be published in February 2022 by Hedgehog Press. Forward Prize winner Fiona Benson has said of it, "The Plum Line is a magnificent, soaring testament to the tenacity of the human spirit. These are powerful, visionary poems, attentive to the body and the dark and tender places of the soul." Helen has been published in numerous magazines and webzines and been placed in poetry competitions. This year, she had 2 poems commended in the Teignmouth Poetry Festival competition, one highly commended in the International Poetry on the Lake competition, and was shortlisted in the Wells Poetry competition. She lives in South Devon with her family and is a practicing psychotherapist. So, welcome aboard, Hélène. We are very happy to have you with us, and we look forward to hearing your poem. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruler. So I too had some difficulty in locating Christmassy themes, but I have a couple of short poems here that I think do the job well enough. The second one I'm going to read is actually published in the Christmas edition of the online magazine One Hand Clapping, which just came out. But firstly, I'm going to read you Apple Feast. All year, the tree had been blowing glass, and the apple globes grew huge. The weight of their flesh tore them from stems. One fell on my head. A single fieldfare arrived, its feeding ground a sweet, sour rotting, hops purposeful against the blackbird throng. Nose to the ground, a roe deer sniffs the frosted underlay, lifts her head, apple in mouth. Shutting down for winter. The nest is smeared like builder's cork along the shed's eaves, whirl upon whirl of a white and beige protectorate. The rounded doorway welcomes the inflight of worker wasps, fattening young queens with the apple crop. Later, the entrance is wreathed in cobwebs. Abdomens throb in the cold, narrow wings shiver. No longer hunter-gatherers, the wasps crawl over the soiled meringue of home, their feelers, yellow legs and mandibles, fingering a sacred braille. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this beautiful, beautiful poem, Hélène. And we're very happy again to have you join us. And we look forward to hearing more of your poetry in future Indelible Evenings. Thank you. Okay, so next up, we have Hedy. Hedy, are you there? Can't see because it's not gallery
Hello.
view. Oh, there you are. Hello, Hedy. Hedy, we're very happy to have you join us again, and we're always looking forward to listening to your beautiful poems. So Hedy Habra, who's joining us from Michigan today, is a poet, artist, and essayist. She has authored 3 poetry collections, most recently, The Taste of the Earth, winner of the Silver Nautilus Book Award, honorable mention for the Eric Hoffer Book Award, and finalist for the Best Book Award. Tea in Heliopolis won the Best Book Award, and Under Brushstrokes was finalist for the Best Book Award and the International Book Award. Her story collection, Flying Carpets, won the Arab American Book Award's honorable mention and was finalist for the Eric Hoffer Award. Her book of criticism, Mundos Alternos y Artísticos en Vargas Llosa, examines the visual aspects of the Peruvian Nobel Prize winner narrative. A 16-time nominee for the Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net and recipient of the Nazim Hikmet Award, her multilingual work appears in numerous journals and anthologies. Hedy, it is a great honor to have you with us again. So fire away.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm happy to see that I'm not the only one to have very few festive poems. Actually, for this occasion, I think it made me realize it was like a self-exploration. I kept looking amongst all the numerous poems that I had written even recently. And I'm going to read a poem from Tea in Heliopolis and a more recent poem. For me and for my family, Christmas is a source of maybe nostalgia, if it's only because we've moved, from one country to another over the past 40 years, or I should say 45 years. So this poem is titled, Even the Sun Has Its Dark Side. But does it really matter unless we could enter that hidden space the way grains of sand would suddenly rise in an hourglass, reshape themselves, regain their initial place? I wonder what's lost behind a picture rippled in its negative, as I often try to read between the lines, sense clenched teeth, or grasp an unspoken word. When I set to bridge these gaps, my blood warms up in tides, revealing a tightness inside the chest, as if memories pressed in a tin can kept near one's heart could sweep away the grayness outside. We lost everything when we fled, except for an album full of my childhood pictures in Egypt and my children born in Beirut. You're so lucky, everyone said. Our family unharmed, not one of their fingers was worth the whole world left behind. Our beds were made in places where the sun teased us, hiding most of the time, forcing us to master the local motto, make sunshine inside. Christmases followed one another, offering versions of our lives, each fragmented image evoking a new face, a recipe, an absence. Whenever I sort them out, I see myself floating in a fluid, lining edges in search of a referent that has vanished, leaving only an empty shell, crumpled, discolored, like fallen leaves. I felt constantly renewed, peeled off like an onion, shedding layer after layer, until what was left was so tender, une primeur à déguster, yet so vulnerable. And the next poem is sort of a surreal poem born out of a surreal experience at a Christmas party. It's titled Antlers. In the center of the white lace, two bronze deer face each other. Antlers, sorry. Sorry, I thought I had, for a minute, I had lost the other half of the poem because it's, so I'll just start over. Antlers. In the center of the white lace, two bronze deer face each other. Antlers, charcoal drawn, branches in snow, copied from monarchs' wings. Their necks bear burning candles, a cold flame casting shadows on the bare walls. Two gypsy dancers, back arched in a duel, sworn to die for love, prostrated in medias res, delay the ritualistic Holocaust. Nearby, in candlelight, two women talk in sign language. Their bodies' slightest motion falls on strummed notes in a guitar concerto. I wonder if one should be deaf to listen, if one should hibernate to see a hand extended in one's direction. I turn to the deer, the centerpiece in that Christmas season. In the semi-darkness, wavering chiaroscuro instills life to their immobile dance. So much takes place in shaded areas, concealed by the artist's pencil. If one could guess what failure lies behind a brushstroke, and sense what's lost when lips, a pale reflection of thought, speak in a tongue foreign to one's heart. And who is to say what words stay in the way when two lovers stand still under the streetlights, stiff in the icy night, their clouded bronze hearts unable to become transparent? What if a hunter came, a lover turned hunter, stealthily close, face to face? He knows where bone meets bone, where the flesh is soft. Like the dancer, he calculates his move, raises his arm, and my shadow leans against the wall. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hedy. I love how you said what failure lies behind brushstrokes. It's beautiful. I mean, there's the artist and the poet in you speaking here.
I know a lot about failure, especially painting, writing, but mostly painting.
It's just such a powerful message there. Thank you. Thank you again, Hedy. And next, Carly. Let me see if I can see you. Oh, there you are, Carly.
Hello.
Hey, so Carly Brown is a writer and academic, originally from Austin, Texas, and now living in Edinburgh, Scotland. But she's joining us tonight from Texas, from Austin. She's the author of a best-selling children's picture book, I Love St. Andrews, and a debut poetry pamphlet. Her second poetry pamphlet, Anastasia, Look in the Mirror, was released in 2020. Known for her lively and witty spoken word poetry, Carly has performed at Glastonbury Festival, Stanza Poetry Festival, and the Edinburgh Fringe. She holds a doctorate of fine arts and creative writing from the University of Glasgow and is currently working on a historical novel. Is the novel coming out anytime soon, Carly?
Not anytime soon, but it's in the works.
Okay, well, that's great to know. So, Carly, go ahead.
Thank you, Rula. Thank you. It's been so lovely to hear all of these seasonal works. It's really put me in such a wonderful mood and spirit. So thank you to everyone that has read so far. So I'm going to share a poem which is very explicitly seasonal and about Santa Claus. Growing up, Santa was a very big deal in my family, as you can see, still rocking the Christmas spirit. And this poem is actually about when I found out the truth about Santa Claus. So that's all I'll say, and I'll share the poem. So this poem is called To Ruin Christmas. Mom, Is Santa Claus real? My mother paused, unable to say a thing. Standing in that hotel room near Disneyland, she looked like a cartoon criminal caught mid-robbery, frozen, trying to flee the scene. Mom? Tell me. Then she said through streaming tears, I want you to always believe. I felt the air leaving my chest and the room spinning around me. Conspiracy, like a shitty Dan Brown novel. The Santa Claus plot unraveled, the worst cover-up ever perpetrated on children like me, and the lies went so deep. They all knew. Those dudes at the mall, I had crawled onto their laps and whispered things like, Santa, hi, why do some kids get more gifts than others? That doesn't seem fair. And then Santa had said, Santa cares about everybody equally, tiny weird communist child. This was all a lie. I felt betrayed, played for the sucker that I was, because I had been the most righteous defender of Santa Claus, the cause I had brandished on the playground when all around me children were shouting that they'd seen their parents do it. But I knew that wasn't true, because I believed. Oh, I worshipped at the altar of Christmas trees and burning logs, left cookies and milk as offerings to the only higher power that I had ever cared about. My mother's words were not a confirmation of something that I had already known. She had blown up the statues of my childhood heroes in an iconoclastic shattering, leaving behind only wisps of a cotton bunny tail and glittering bits of fairy wings. Since that night, I have not believed in anything as fervently as I knew that a fat man came down the chimney once a year to bring me what I asked for. And more than anything, I wanted to pour belief back into that hole where there once was somebody with dimples so merry and nose like a cherry who sees you when you're sleeping. And I wondered if anybody saw me now. And how when I didn't know what to do with this news, I told my friend Lindsay too, the truth about Santa. I said, none of it is real. Not the tooth fairy or the Easter bunny, none of it. And when you go to sleep tonight, Lindsay, you might not even wake up in your bed the next day, because who knows if that's real now anyway. And I wanted her to say no. No, we'll be okay. Even if the things that our parents told us aren't true, even if we feel the wind whistling through our stomachs where there used to be certainty, even if we chop down trees for no reason and stick them in our living rooms and we're subsumed by loneliness, we can look at the brightly colored tinsel and stockings instead of being so conscious of the silence. We can hear sleigh bells on the roof, even if Santa Claus isn't the literal truth. Let's just keep on doing those things because it makes us feel happy. And we'll be okay. I wanted her to say that. But we were only 8 years old and all she did was cry. A little bit like I had done when my mom told me, and say that she was getting cold and that we should get a hot chocolate, and that it was really mean of me to ruin Christmas. Thank you very much.
Wow, Carly, I am so glad that my daughter is in the other room.
I thought about that as I was reading it. I was like, oh, hope no little kiddos.
I am dreading the moment when she realizes that.
Yeah.
It is such a wonderful, wonderful poem from the heart of the season. So thank you. Thank you so much, Carly, for sharing.
Thanks a lot.
And may Santa Claus be real in each and every one of us forever. And then we will be okay. All right, so next, Claude, Professor Claude Barbre.
Yes.
Claude,
Hello,
can I
everyone.
see- Hello, hi, Claude.
To see you.
So, Professor Claude Barbre is Distinguished Full Professor at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. He is the course lead coordinator of the Psychodynamics Orientation and lead faculty in the Child and Adolescent Studies. Dr. Barbre served for 12 years as executive director of the Harlem Family Institute, a New York City school-based psychoanalytic training program. Author of prize-winning articles, books, and poetry, Dr. Barbre is a 5-time recipient of the International Gradiva Award for Outstanding Contributions to Psychoanalysis and the Arts. He's currently a board member and training supervisor at the Chicago Center for Psychoanalysis and in private practice in Chicago. So Claude, we are very happy and greatly honored to have you join us today from Chicago. Are you in Chicago now?
I'm actually in Quebec City.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So it's good to see everyone. Happy holidays from Quebec during these challenging times. So I think I'll read 3 poems around the theme of birth and rebirth and transformation and change and movement, which is life and death is a theme for the end of the year. So I'll read these 3 poems. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
The first poem, many years ago, I worked in Harlem, as Rula mentioned, and on one holiday. This poem is a kind of Christmas poem in its own sense. I was walking through the neighborhood, and I came across some children who were playing in the playground next door to St. Mary's Anglican Church, and as I got closer to them, I recognized them from the neighborhood, and I realized that they were their mother had died 2 weeks before, and that they were orphaned. And the image of them playing in the park on Easter morning stayed with me for a long time, and I wrote this poem. It's called Easter Morning. In the city park, Camilla, dressed in organdy, is barely blossom weight of wings, as from arc to arc she swings this day of yellow hats and cousin badinage. From a distance, she could be the dove's descending flight, the linen lofted into air as Christ ascends the world, as though her Lord was called to fall and rise 1,000 times from dust to life. Her twin, Cecile, in tandem swings as high, and like a twin is almost synchronized when side by side they pass, repass, singing songs their brother Aidan hates, his buckled brow like Judas's, now knotted with a plan. The week, the Lenten drama strengthened to its denouement, as scheming Jesus set his face to wage the last return to occupied Jerusalem. These children's mother died. Her face the clay of tidal marshes drained of daily wash. Driven to her sleep by making do with years of less, now buried by her husband she remains, as if in death to lie together silently resumes the worst and best. No longer will she wake to where the shades are drawn and pulled against the early light that seems to crack the stone of streets and render pavements like the gospel tomb's great adamant. This day, she rises to a desert air of fading stars, to live again from whom the women with their spices seek, when through the garden thatch they find the unfamiliar path to be unguarded as their tangled intervals of grief. Then out of breath, her public braid unraveled to its length, she tastes a drop of jubilance returning to her tears as morning gathers golden in the story that she loved, about the troubled life exalted by a crown of thorns, a life at times the one she lived, a scripture hers to tell. And let her tell as darkness yields its secrets to the sun. The nameless dead have faces, and they shine like newlyweds that feed each other wine and bread, and call the world a feast. Now here, her children's pain become their play, a crucial dance that mourns with motions like a sweeping turbulence that breaks through breath and blood, must strive again to land or lift from ground, unsure of which, as angels having learned their steps from flight, must stumble in their frequent calls to earth, when on the earth they linger in the light like children orphaned, dreaming heights of every tenderness received, of every quickened hope. I think the three await a fourth in unconsuming flames, when near them burgeons of the April cherry bear and blaze. Their restive games now like a kind of necessary prayer, as what is left unsaid must find a form and gather fierce, compelling intercessions into shapes that arms express. The legs can mean more loosely, the landing feet can slang, their corresponding bodies can affirm as act or praise. I think of Miriam, her dash and driven storm of song, of Hannah's suppliants, her moving lips, her sway for words, of Rachel in the ruins, who weeps and will not be consoled, of Mary's cry and birthing throes, of open hearts and graves. The second poem, many years ago, a colleague came in and he told me that he was very sad because a limb outside of his study that he always watched birds gather on, it broke in an ice storm the previous night. And he said, I'm grieving the loss of my branch. And when I went to my office that morning, I had a message that a friend of mine's 4-year-old daughter had died of leukemia. And so the two images synchronistically became a metaphor. This is an elegy, it's called To a Branch Felled by Ice. Now that a sheer completion rests upon your leafy radius and maps a last diurnal round, where living continuities, the summer's greening way must go beyond the slant of window light. So must our severed certainties amend the rights of measurement for what endures. For what endures when ice and stone become the stars you long to shoulder still, and earth prepares your countryside for sleep with drifting shades of eiderdown and silences that softly speak and silences that softly speak in silences that sing to sleep. Into your changes now abide, where darkness shines like ember blues of snow at dusk that warm the dead until their time. See how we shine to give them life again. See how we shine as though our heavy arms were lift and reach to hold again this broken world by letting go. And my final poem is a poem about summer. Since we're in almost the darkest evening of the year, thought I would end with a love poem and about summer and light. It's called Wedding. Tomorrow is a good idea, but whose? Tomorrow turns its hourglass of hope these days when prodigals do not return and pilgrims cease to seek their faiths across the border towns from Easy Street. But here the summer eases into mind. An ancient ocean tumbles overhead with cloudy latitudes for shore. The sea remembers Kansas underground. Green combers fall into the sound of wind among the trees and August fields. We have arrived where every river bends and lessons of the riven world refuse to tell how strong must one become to string the bow. The nodding rose will lift her head from prayer and speak in syllables of rain, of winding stairs that shine in yellow cloisters of the shell beneath the farms, now tidal with their loam. The cottonwoods release their gossamer of stars, as if to say love's gravity prevails, restores our subtle bodies to the earth where we can wake to hold each other close. All I feel is what I know. How long before came anyone, before our births, we found each other, skin of lapis light. The open chrysalis of sky is evidence enough. The patterned wings of daybreak fill our eyes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claude. Thank you for the different angles through which we can view Christmas and the season and the times that we are being in right now. It's also sometimes good to remember that there are many people who are suffering. There are many people, many children who are homeless, who are orphaned during this time of the year as well. So yes, I mean, it's a happy season. And at the same time, you know, the happiness isn't quite shared equally among everyone. So thank you. Thank you, Claude. And we will move now next with Dr. Gottfried Heuer. So Gottfried, yes, you are here. Okay. So Gottfried-Maria Heuer, Jungian training psychoanalyst and supervisor, Neo-Rachian body psychotherapist and trainer, some 40 years of clinical practice in London, including work in many European countries like Russia, North, Central, and South America, Africa, and Australia. Independent scholar with some 70 papers published in 7 languages. His books include 10 Otto Gross Congress Proceedings, Sacral Revolutions by Routledge 2010, Sexual Revolution, Psychoanalysis, History, and the Father by Routledge 2011, Russian edition 2017, and Freud's outstanding colleague, Jung's twin brother, The Suppressed Psychoanalytic and Political Significance of Otto Gross by Routledge 2017. He is also a published graphic artist, photographer, sculptor, and poet, and a wonderful artist in general. A great honor to have you with us tonight, Gottfried, and take it away.
Thank you so much for having invited me. Thank you. Since time immemorial, during today's celebration, near coinciding with the winter solstice, and made even more powerful by the full moon, our ancestors rejoiced in the birth of light from deepest darkness. The festivals of light of some of the great religions, Diwali, Hanukkah, and Christmas, are an echo of this. I'm offering my poem Frauenkirche, Ladies' Church, originally a Baroque dome erected, can you see this? Erected on the site of a much older sanctuary in Dresden, Germany. In early 1945, it was literally turned into a pile of rubble in the course of an air raid. Some 50 years later, it was rebuilt with donations from all over the world, using as many of the original stones as possible. They are the dark ones. The topmost symbol having been created by a descendants in London of one of the pilots of the bomber squad. For the rebirth of light, may this occasion become a turning point for all of us in the new year 2022, so that we can change the world from the current pandemic into a pandemic of light. The Frauenkirche, Ladies' Church. profound chthonic powers have congregated here. Our Mother, who art the earth, hallowed be thy name. On the sacred ground and in her celebration, a church stood here for more than 1,000 years. Thy queendom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Throughout the centuries, from small beginnings, this church grew to become the Frauenkirche, Ladies' Church, who gives us this day our daily bread. Until one night fire rained from the sky, the flames of hell on earth, world's end, all consuming. And she forgives us our trespasses as we forgive them that trespass against us. The buildings all around the church, the whole city burned. When dawn rose, all was in ruins, blackened, smoking, smoldering, glowing, and thousands upon many thousands dead. A miracle amidst the horror. The Frauenkirche was still standing. It had survived the unimaginably fiery inferno. But like someone who, in horror, falls to her knees, just overwhelmed in utter sorrow, the huge edifice of stone first groaned, then roared, then rumbled, swayed, and crumbled. Then with deafening thunder, crashed, shattered to the ground. When the smoke and dust had cleared, there just remained a pile of rubble. Yet she leads us not into temptation, but delivers us from evil. 50 years later, stone by stone, over more than 10 years, the Frauenkirche was rebuilt from both those old and blackened stones, as well as new ones radiating in soft skin-colored hues. Now she stands tall and proud again, for thine is the queendom and the power. Hand in hand, next to each other, we, my beloved and I, sit right underneath the resurrected dome. My face turns heavenwards as organ music embraces and envelops us, pours down abundantly to flow right into us. We drink the sounds, grace never ending, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I hold this dome inside me now, so when in need, I can sit underneath this waterfall of grace that never ends, remembering the Frauenkirche that died and rose again, reminding me that any wound can heal, be healed, and really that the dome of heaven in Our Lady's blue is always sheltering me as I live right inside her sweet angelic breast in the land of milk and honey, paradise regained.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Gottfried. I love how, the rebirth archetype appears in this piece that you just shared with us right now. We also heard it in Claude's first poem as well. And for some reason, Ruth, I remembered your learning how to make an oud in Nazareth. So the idea of breaking and then rebuilding and then remaking. So the rebirth archetype, it's wonderful how it kind of descends upon many of us during this time of the year. Thank you very much, Gottfried. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Lucy Holme. Lucy,
Hi.
hello. Let me
Hi,
just.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you now. Okay, wonderful. So, Lucy, thank you for being with us tonight. For those of you who do not know Lucy Holme is a poet and mother from Kent who lives in Cork, Ireland. Her poems feature in Indelible, The Honest Ulsterman Southward, I Am, and Poetry Birmingham Literary Journal, amongst others. In April 2021, she was a recipient of a Munster Literature Centre Mentoring Fellowship with the poet Grace Wells, and she is currently studying for an MA in Creative Writing at UCC. Her debut chapbook, Temporary Stasis, which was shortlisted for the Patrick Kavanagh Award, will be published by Broken Sleep Books in August 2022. So congratulations on your forthcoming publication, Lucy. And thanks for sharing your brilliant work with us as ever. So we would like to hear what you will be reading with us tonight.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's like an absolute joy to be here. So to hear Ruth read from her book and hear such an eclectic mix of perspectives on the festive season. I also struggled a little bit to find something Christmassy, but I was helped out by this, which is Black Bell Poetry Christmas and Winter Edition, which I managed to get 3 poems into this winter. And they are poems that I wrote in the sort of strange, uncertain pandemic twilight of last Christmas. We stayed in West Cork for a few days, and it was very quiet and very idyllic. It was just before the 5K restrictions came into force. So we didn't really know, how much time we had to sort of relax away from the city, and just spent a lot of time reflecting on the countryside, really. So that's it's a little trio of poems basically about that trip. So I'll share my screen if that's okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. Okay, so the first one is called West Cork Prairie Rose. A slow extracted blink and summer was spent. Sap drained, skin wrinkled, carbuncular and crimson hued. You shrank as veins bristled, foliole turned inward. We sought beauty in your demise, in the fallow and the fraught. The flood of pigment stemmed, mired in winter's tight embrace. The second is It is a Winter Strain. This idle empty chill, green shed laddered by molten ivy, under the mardy sky's disdainful eye. A column of wisped grey strokes the dusk, bids the day farewell, whispers, come, breathe night's fetid depths with me. Lichen curls, the waist span of a moth, circling in dark, unfettered whimsy, spins with the December winds. Finally is Phyloplume. Blue night has seized this moss-spread plot, from the petrified rosehip branch to the kiss-chasing grosbeak, her pale breast puffed, Phyloplumes aquiver. The moon, in mollifying mood, pats her charge, oversees the expectant pulse. And as diurnal rhythm slows, she watches each leaf and bramble, each tiny fragment consumed by the full barn mouth agape, chewing on sea-scented hush. So that's those three. I was going to read another one, actually, if that's okay, from the book. It's not my own poem. It's a poem by, 1 second. Yeah, of course I can't find it once I look for it. It's called Vishu, and it's by Leela Soma. And I just really enjoyed the different perspectives in this book. It's just fantastic, again, to see everybody's different interpretations. So it begins with a quote. Yesterday is but a dream, tomorrow is only a vision, Kalidasa. Vishu, the new year begins in the soft early dawn, a bleary-eyed wakening to the exciting day of sweets, new silken clothes rustling, pujas and feasts on banana leaves. Mother wakes her to open her eyes, guides her to the decorated altar. Mornings dazzled by the offerings of fruit, honey, sweets to Lord Krishna, a lover of butter and maidens fair. She's entranced by the picture of him playing the flute. And her childish heart hopes the new year is full of fun. That's the kind of Christmassy poem that I'd love to be able to write, but all of my poems are a bit bleak. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lucy. That was great. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks. Next, Hamad. Hamad, are you here yet? Yes, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay, so hi, Hamad. Thank you for making it tonight. And thanks again for being here to share some of your wonderful poetry. Omar Sabbagh, for those who do not know Omar, is a widely published poet, writer, and critic. He has published 5 poetry collections, 2 novellas, and much short fiction, some of it prize-winning. A study of the oeuvre of Professor Fiona Sampson, Reading Fiona Sampson, a study in contemporary poetry and poetics, was published with Anthem Press in July 2020. He has published scholarly essays on modernist as well as contemporary poets. Many of these works are collated to In My Mind or Kinbote's Essays on Literature. He also has 2 books forthcoming. Actually, one of them has just come out, Morning Lit, Portals After Alia, and a forthcoming, actually, Why Nots is also out. Right, Ahmad?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Why Not? A collection of short fictions. He holds a BA in PPE from Oxford, 3 MAs, all from the University of London in English Literature, Creative Writing and Philosophy, and a PhD in English Literature from KCL. Presently, he teaches at the American University in Dubai, where he is Associate Professor of English.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Rilla. This has been wonderful tonight. I know it was about 10 minutes late, but I really enjoyed what I've listened to today. It was some very varied, all brilliant work. I wanted to read, if possible, a couple of poems from my new book. It's actually not officially out. Rilla, you're lucky I gave you an early copy because I got my author copies early.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's coming out in early 2022. Yeah. And I thought I'd read one poem.
It's available for pre-ordering, right? At least.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah. So it's out there in the world.
So can I share my screen? I want to read one poem which was taken, Marilyn Hacker. I don't know if any of you know her. She's quite a distinguished poet and so on. And she asked me, she was curating a Lebanese poets called kind of section of New England Review, but it's not coming out till next year, till autumn or winter. And she took 2 poems from a selection I sent her, and one of them I want to read out, which I wrote in a bar as ever. If I can find, oh, there we go. If I can find, I was singing in a bar. This is during the, the troubles in Palestine last spring, late spring and summer. And obviously I'm by, inclination, kind of pro-Palestine. And so I was sitting in the bar and I wanted to write something that meant something. And I remember I wrote this poem called Letter to an Innocent in a Time of War, dedicating it to my daughter, Alia. The whole book, or at least 2/3 of the book, is about Alia, my 2.5-year-old daughter, celebrating her and other aspects of family life. So this was written at the time of the troubles in Palestine, the most recent. There are always troubles in Palestine, but the ones that were shared on CNN when they rarely share the true things that are going on. And so I wrote this poem for Alia, Letter to an Innocent in a Time of War. So it runs like this. You wake each morning to a world that loves you, 4 eyes that seem to unfurl beneath their bedding lashes, 4 lives. And we love you. We do. And our love behaves, if you like, in a way that no science, that no gauge in a measuring gambit can ever pin or know. And while the world we live in is filled with just such innocence, other eyes and other lives, spread upon the lock love is. Still, there's a gasp we feel, a shock to the way we try and try again, against all the sour logic of the brittle clock, to love you. Men and women, just like us, rise into being just like this, like lives due to the risen truth of one like you. A straight line whose signs are runes spelt past all the myths of our claimed decisions. We're mad for you, you might say. And from our straitjackets, we'll babble of your innocence with crazed lit tongues. Meanwhile, my love, the world's aflame, as the world forgets once again to douse what has always burned here, blood red ringed by more. But you are Jerusalem for us, lest the sadness, the millennia of sins. Okay, that's one of them. And the other one I want to read was, I've read it before in Indelible Evenings and maybe Slight Creative Evenings, is the last poem in the book, which is a poem, no, sorry, that's the wrong one, that's the penultimate one. A poem I wrote a few months ago when my first college, Oxford College, contacted me as an alumnus for just catching up and helping, maybe potentially helping with some copy for a campaign they have for the library. So I wrote a few poems on the back end of that conversation, which was very pleasant, although it was full of kind of quite torturous memories, but it was quite charming and pleasant, the conversation. I was joking about how terrible my time was as a 19 and 20-year-old. But anyway, so I wrote this poem, 20 Years in the Making, which now closes my book, Morning Lit Portals After Aliyah, and also will be published in the extra college, one of the extra college publications. You know how these colleges have registers and kind of, you know, yearly publications. So they, and now, or the good thing was it was kind of vetted by fellows and the rector, which, you know, at an Oxford College, I know it's the same as anywhere else, but for me, I felt kind of quite honored that they liked the work. So it was kind of, it was nice. It was a nice compliment. So 20 years in the making. If I look back through the tunnel of 20 years, I see this boy, graceful and more, fueled by a weird desire to be graceful. And yet, I can count the fears possessing him, a string on an abacus whose beads addle and grin like the simplest numbers, far less than what he might have wished for, and more like the way that wish was pressed, all unrest, with the sense of a muffled, of a broken need. And here he is again, a whittled number now, held in sight of a whittled eye. And below the surface of 20 years, the far deeper show, a sort of beast disclosed, revealed by a human sound. It's so darn long ago, and long ago when love was a round corner he grappled with, the long if young men greet in so many different ways. 20 years are flown, and 20 years that stay. And perhaps the way the years have fallen are no one's fault but mine. But to begin the effort to uncoil the spring, to unlock the bone-sad bales and sheaves of meaning, is a project for a different man, older, younger, who can tell? For the harvest of these passing years goes summed in two stark ways. I survived the human terror, but lived beneath the tenor of what was always meant for me. And any winnings through it all are like 20 and like 10, two different numbers speaking to each other across a wind-picked valley. So many things I wished for, things set deep in me, things for which I built as best I could my fort of life, have been split and sundered from my mind. But I look back across the rough topography of 20 years, feel my feet whisper across the hard-pressed turf, and think that, for all that, I've been luckier than most. Thanks. That's the two I wanted to share today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you. That was lovely. Beautiful poems, different voices, and just lovely. Thank you. Next, we will move to Bernard. Bernard Pearson is a poet whose work appears in many publications, including Aesthetica magazine, the Edinburgh Review, Crossways, Nymphs, the Poetry Village, Beneath the Fever, the Beach Hut, Little Stone. In 2017, a selection of his poetry in Free Fall was published by Leaf Press. In 2019, he won second prize in the Aurora Prize for writing for his poem, Manor Farm. He is also a biographer, novelist, and prize-winning short story writer. Bernard, always a pleasure having you with us, and we're always delighted to hear your poems. Bernard, we can't hear you. You're still muted. Sorry. I'm trying to unmute from here. We can't hear you. Still muted. Yes, now.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, good. Hello.
Okay, great.
I was just to say thank you so much, and just to say that tonight has been absolutely delightful. It's been a horrible dank day here, full of fog and cold, and I've been warmed and lifted and just inspired by the wonderful work that I've heard, the great humanity that I've heard, and the width of experience and fun. And I just found it so remarkable. So thank you, everybody. I just want to read two little poems. One is called Witness Protection, and I'll start it now. Witness Protection. I am an ox, beast of burden. In the pit of the night, I recognize one such as I, even though my coat is coarse, rough, as sanded paper, and the baby comes naked to the world, as unprepared for it as the world is prepared for such a child. There are other beasts here, sheep standing in the way of everything, as they do. Goats eating what they should not, and a camel drooling at the moon like a fool. Then there are the humans, a girl and a young man far from home, like owls in flight at noon, out of place in time, humming lullabies half remembered from their childhood. For them, this stable is a palace. For me, it is rest from the yoke and shelter from the cold of a Bethlehem night. Thank you. And just one further one. This is from a little book called, which I think Ruth sweetly mentioned, called In Free Fall, which I published a couple of years ago. It's called Autopsy. I have seen God's heart, his right ventricle, his left ventricle, his left atrium, and his right atrium, and the pericardium that embraces all. It is unusually large, larger than is calculable, but full of scar tissue. Every beat is labored, every artery clogged, every syndral node out of rhythm. It slows so much that the wait in between beats becomes unbearable, like the wait between a lover's visits. or lying between the rags of winter's night and the ermine robes of midsummer day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bernard. Lovely, as always. Thank you. And now we move to Perla.
Hello.
Perla. Hello, Perla. Still can't see you because,
I'm here.
yes, now I can, yes. Yes. So, Perla, lovely to have you with us and lovely to finally get the chance to meet you.
Thank you.
For those of you who do not know Perla Aurora was born and is currently living in Sweden, but is also a citizen of New Zealand, where she spent many years. She has university degrees in economics and psychology and has worked in many different sectors in a variety of roles. Her current focus is on writing and photography, with exhibited and published works. Her way of experiencing life shares similarities with Jungian concepts, and this is reflected in her writing. She volunteers as a creator of community projects aimed at bringing people together through exploring deeper aspects of life. Her latest book, To Him, From Her with Love, a collection of poems and stories, acknowledges and celebrates men and masculinity. Okay, so welcome, Perla, and take it away.
Thank you. Well, here in Sweden, the Christmas time is mostly filled with lighting candles and eating and drinking like mulled wine, because it's very dark and very cold up here. But it's also a time where we approach the midwinter solstice and the new year. So it's a time to take stock and perhaps ask ourselves how we want to live in the future. Permit ourselves to get new beginnings in life. And I will share my screen with you so you can follow the words. So this poem is called It's Time. It's time. Now is the time to desire, declare, demand. Let us know the edge of experience, the knife-edge end of being, our utmost abilities. If not now, when? When will we ever let the dogs loose and mount the horse, rearing and foaming at the mouth? When will we come to call on that which stirs in our deepest depths? Order it to come out and fight, to show its might. In our duel with life, will we ever have the guts to risk everything, to find a living worth dying for? Will we ever gather the strength to face our biggest fear and refuse to kneel for any threat? When will we dare to feel the fiercest of all forces, love, and then feed it, the beast that it is, at our own peril, keeping our heads held high in honor to it always, come what may? Will we rise to the hardest challenge and remain upright, whatever the consequences? Will we serve the truth with all we have got, despite it bringing pain and knowledge of the darkest kind? Will we ever walk with danger on the way of the divine and humbly accept everything as grace? When will we let that which is bigger than ourselves claim victory, so we can give life our all, more alive than ever?
Thank you, Perla. That was beautiful. Lots of striking imagery there. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to have you share your poetry with us this evening. Thank you.
Very much. And what a wonderful event this is. Thank you for all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I cannot see Patrick. So I guess I am left. So I'll be reading next. This is a poem called Aestheticization. I've read it before in one of the site creative evenings, but it has changed a bit. I went through a few trims and cuts and changed it into a newer version right now. So the story of this poem is that it is a found poem. It's actually a combination between a found poem and some dream poetry. So the dream images that kind of infuse the poem here are images of pine trees, which is, of course, symbolic of Christmas trees. It is, as a found poem, it was found from Carl Jung's The Transcendent Function. So for those of you who do not know how found poems work, although I'm sure most of you, if not all of you do, you take a look and like the first thing that you see becomes part of a poem. You put them all together and you have some poetry. But I did not just stick to the transcendent function. I put in a few images of the trees that I saw in my dream. And the Christmas trees that I saw were actually during the summer. So it wasn't Christmas at all. Okay, I'll be sharing the screen. I think that would be easier. So can you see anything yet? Nope. Okay, I guess. Can you see it now? Okay. Aestheticization, which was also a found word in the chapter. Dangerous affects, those cuttlefish in a river, are not psychological water cures. Aestheticization is renewal adding essence to evergreen like rosemary shoots on a Christmas tree. Twist, the strand of consciousness around a coquettish finger. Ego, that other voice, misophonia, an indispensable condition. The human community, that congregation of fir needles, points in the direction through the mirror. The right to exist is a fridge magnet on a whiteboard. That touchstone, though, personality. Thank you. It's quite a short poem. So now that we have around 20 minutes left, we can leave the floor for anyone else in the audience who would like to give it a shot for an open mic. Anyone who hasn't read who might like to share another Christmas / solstice / New Year themed poem is welcome. And I'm going to put you all on gallery view so that I don't miss any hands raised. Thank you, Helen. Thank you.